Hey guys, vlog 83 and very special occurrence for you today. The first vlog that I've done with anybody externally. So I did one with Ben the other day who works for me, but this time I've got someone from outside the company to come into this one. So this is Mr. Andy McCreadie from Sandler Training. Just to give you a bit of background very quickly, Andy and I have worked together for probably 5 or 6 years, I reckon now. And Andy's been helping both me and James, my business partner, and the rest of the team with our kind of management and sales processes. And we've continuously invested in that as a business because we've always seen the value come back from that. So we've only got a few minutes, as you know, for this. So I wanted to ask Andy a quick question about sales teams and how one as a business owner kind of extracts themselves from being the only salesperson in the business and quite often the best salesperson in the business, and actually starts to employ people to work for them, because that's obviously what we've done here at Optics. So and I think this is probably something that you've very much worked with me on my behalf as well. So how does one do that, Andy?
Sure. Yeah. Well, look, common challenge. You know, small business owner does all the selling. How do they build a team? I think that there's basically 2 mistakes that they make, and number 1 is a hiring mistake, so they take on the wrong people.
Yeah.
And number 2 is a management mistake, in that they don't really know how to manage those people and get the best out of them. So if we look briefly at each one, hiring, you know, the first mistake they make is they don't clearly define the role and define exactly what they want the person to do. And then secondly, they don't define what the ideal candidate would look like. You know, exactly what characteristics would the ideal person have in order to perform in the job.
Yeah. And
then thirdly, they don't have a process for testing and measuring whether or not those characteristics are present. So ultimately they hire on gut feel and often end up with the wrong person.
And I've heard quite often they hire in the how do they call it?
Sort of in their image.
In their image, that's it, yeah.
Sure.
Which is not often the right thing to do.
Not always, no. So often they just take on the wrong people. If they take on the right people, then often they don't have the management processes in place to make sure those people perform. So, you know, 2 or 3 examples, they don't have an onboarding process. So in those first 3 months, they're not really giving those new people what those new people need in order to succeed.
That's a classic.
They're not keeping people accountable. So salespeople should be accountable for certain daily and weekly sales behaviours. If management aren't keeping them accountable, often they're not doing those important prospecting behaviours they should be doing.
And just quickly, there's something really interesting there, which is that I've picked up from Andy in the past, is that notice he said behaviours, he didn't say targets. Now targets are important, I think, as well, but actually targets are met by creating the right behaviours in a sales team. So you've got to get those, you've got to work out what those targets are and how you create the right behaviours to get to them, and then measure on those at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, and I think most people probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's useful.
And I guess the third thing I'd mention is coaching. So most businesses don't have a sort of best practice way of running a meeting with a prospective client. You know, what questions should you ask? You know, what outcomes should you get to at the end of the first meeting? What should you focus on in the second meeting? That sort of best practice hasn't been defined. So often these new salespeople are going out and running meetings in all sorts of ways, and then coming back from the meeting, and the owner has no way of really coaching them to improve, checking on what they did well and what they didn't do well, so that there's a kind of an ongoing improvement process.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you know, they're often doing the wrong things, but they keep doing it over and over and over.
Yeah.
So hiring and management would be the 2 reasons why often that there's a high failure rate.
Perfect, thank you so much. And obviously there is so much more to it than that, and I've learned an awful lot from this man. You should check him out if you're interested, or in Exeter or Devon. Just Google Sandler Training, Andy McCreadie, I'm sure you'll find him that way. Or you can contact me, obviously, and I'll give you his details as well. But this really isn't about selling or a sales plug. This is about something I truly believe in, and you know, I wouldn't have paid this man for 5 years solid if I wasn't getting something back from it. So yeah, I value it a lot, and I know that some of you value what I say. So yeah, hopefully that's been useful today. I'll leave it there, and I'll see you next time.